just to have to give then now the floor to our third project, ADLIFE, where we will have a presentation shared by two persons. Nerea González has a PhD in psychology at the University of the Basque Country, and she has been the project manager of RADISEC, the Health Services Research on Chronic Patient Networks for the last 10 years. And thus she's been working in the ADLIFE project together with Gokce Erturkmen, who is the director of the research and development and in a consultancy company, SRDC in Turkey. So I would like, after that, we get this impressive quality insurance, I mean, inclusiveness, quality insurance checklist from Luciana, to give the floor to Nerea and Gokce.
Thank you very much, Luke. I'm Gokce from SRDC, and together with my colleague Nerea, we will be presenting some results from early usability studies of ADLIFE project, and also we would like to share our experiences in dealing with cultural aspects, which is important to engage citizens in ADLIFE projects. I will first of all very briefly present ADLIFE project, then I will focus more on early acceptance tests and results, and then my colleague Nerea will continue by introducing ADLIFE Health Outcome Framework, and then she will finally present how we have adopted the questionnaires that have been directed to our patients, which are older adults in ADLIFE projects. ADLIFE project is a Horizon 2020 project, which is initiated in January 2020, and it will be concluded around summertime next year. It is coordinated by Chronic Güne. We are 13 partners from 9 countries, and we have 7 pilot sites across Europe. Our aim is to improve the quality of life of patients who are suffering from advanced stages of chronic diseases. We have particularly two such conditions. We are targeting COPD and chronic heart failure, but we are also addressing the needs of these patients who may be suffering from other comorbidities as well. And we are trying to achieve this by providing intelligent integrated care solutions, not only to multidisciplinary care team members, but also to patients and their caregivers. And our aim is to achieve personalized, responsive and timely care. ADLIFE has 3 pillars. First of all, we would like to empower the multidisciplinary care team members, which are healthcare professionals, to create personalized care plans for their patients who may be suffering from multiple chronic conditions. And we are doing this in support of evidence-based clinical guidelines. We are providing support to healthcare professionals to create care plans which are in line with those evidence-based guidelines. And once we have those care plans, which might be complex to follow, especially in the case of several multiple conditions, we do provide tools to patients and their caregivers, informal caregivers, to follow their care plans. We try to empower them. And in between physical visits, we also try to follow the symptoms of the patient. We do try to collect information from the patient about their quality of life, about their difficulties, and we are utilizing those information to try to detect their care needs in an early manner, in an early fashion, so that their care plans can be updated accordingly. We have built several different clinical decision support services. First of all, to kind of automate evidence-based clinical guidelines, to provide guidance to the healthcare professionals, to create care plans. But we have also implemented different clinical decision support services to detect potentially preventable situations like multimorbid, like malnutrition risk or hypotension, or early stages of depression, so that we can enable the physicians to the care plans. So in the light of those decision support services, we create a care plan that is delivered to the patients to empower them to take an active role in the management of their conditions. And we are continuously using this feedback to enable update of the care plan. So I will very briefly present the results from our early user acceptance tests. Once the components have been finalized as a result of a co-creation activity, we have conducted some pre-deployment usability studies. The objective was to assess the usability of the platform before the piloting stage starts, so that we have enough time to address the problems, especially in respect to usability issues. So our pilot is going to start end of April, May this year, and we have conducted those pre-deployment usability studies around spring, summertime last year. And we have prepared usabilities. We have prepared and conducted usability studies for two components of ADLIFE, two user-facing components. The first one is developed for healthcare professionals, enabling them to create a care plan in line with the evidence-based guidelines. And here it is possible to see the medical summary, to see the recommendations coming from decision support services, to see possible risk predictions, and create a care plan accordingly. And the second user-facing platform is for the patients, indeed, which might be most probably older adults and their informal caregivers. And here in this tool, we provide interfaces, web-based interfaces, so that they can follow their care plan. They can be informed about upcoming activities. They can be reminded about upcoming activities, and we are sending motivational messages then to carry out them. They can also provide feedback back to the healthcare professionals about the goals and activities. They can record data, and they can answer several different questionnaires that are designed for different purposes, as Nerea will present in the end of the presentation. And what have we done for preparation of these user acceptance tests? First of all, we have created user guides for both of the platforms. We have also prepared walkthrough scenarios that is supported with a realistic scenario, explaining the key features of the two platforms in a step-by-step manner. We have created sample realistic patient data and a care plan together with the patient data. And once we deployed our tools to our servers, we have created user access accounts for the participants, and we have used questionnaire for user interaction satisfaction to collect feedback from our participants. Via this questionnaire, we have assessed the overall reaction, the usage of screens, terminology, and learning curve, the use of multimedia, the training material, and also system capabilities. Our participants provide feedback to us via a 9-point scale, ranging from 1 to 9. 9 is the most positive answer. And for carrying out those usability studies, needless to say, we have received ethical board approvals from 3 clinical sites from Spain, Germany, and Sweden. And one of our sites from UK has opted to collect feedback via a patient public involvement PPI approach, where the participants have not actually used the system, but they have been presented detailed presentations, demonstrations. We have provided them video explanations, and then they have provided the feedback. But the rest of the sites have used the system. So the study protocol was, first of all, we have given live demonstrations of the tool to the users via a scenario. We have presented, we have carried out training, first of all. Then they have given access to the platforms. Then we have given some time to them, around 2 weeks, to use the system and to complete the questionnaire for collecting their feedback. The questionnaire is made available via an online tool so that they can easily provide their answers. And the result is as follows. We have conducted our usability studies in Germany, Spain, Sweden, and UK. And for the tool that is being used by the healthcare professionals, we had 16 participants from Germany, 10 from Spain, and 3 from Sweden. And for the patient empowerment platform, we had a workshop with our German colleagues with 3 patients. In Spain, there were 4 patients and 3 informal caregivers. And from UK, we have conducted workshops with 10 participants, including both patients and also informal caregivers. This is a very quick look to the results. Overall, out of 9, the average score for overall reaction is 6.4 for the healthcare professional tool. And 92% of the responders found the tool easy to use. For the patient empowerment platform, the score is a little bit higher, 6.77, and it was happy to see that all of the respondents have found the tool easy to use. This was encouraging for us because we spend more time, to be honest, on the usability of the patient empowerment platform, knowing that it will be used by older adults. We try to follow the guidance from W3C in developing websites for older people. We try to follow the guidelines about the font size, about the coloring and color contrast, and we try to provide easy to navigate web page. Not only easy, but consistent navigation is facilitated. It's always possible to go back to the home page from each of the pages, which is quite important, especially for older adults. And we try to provide explanatory titles. We try to avoid unusual words and abbreviations in our websites. And it was happy to see that all of the participants have found it easy to use. On top of these questionnaires, we have also enabled the participants to provide us feedback via textual content, and we had received plenty of comments. And based on those feedback, after the usability studies, we have updated both of the tools. Especially for the patient empowerment platform, we try to provide some more easy to use dashboards where they can provide their feedback in a very simple manner, especially about whether they have taken their medications, whether they have carried out the activities, checked their educational materials, etc. And we have also provided some additional functionalities based on their request. They are now enabled to record their over-the-counter medications as well, which can be seen by their healthcare professionals. Some sites have reported that they do not want to use the forum and messaging platform, so it is now possible to disable them. And for both of the tools, we have updated the user guides to make them more explanatory. And for the care plan management tool that is being used by the physicians, we had provided some additional features enabling them to use it more easily. Previously, thinking that it would be easier for the healthcare professionals to create a care plan, we provided a wizard-like interface where they can navigate through the different sections of the care plan, because these patients do suffer from multiple chronic conditions. And for example, for a patient, we need to take care of blood pressure management, chronic kidney disease management. If he's suffering from mild cognitive impairments, there are parts dealing with those parts. In the previous version, there was a wizard-like interface where the healthcare professional is guided in a step-by-step manner to complete the care plan. But having the feedback from the healthcare professionals and thinking that they might not have enough time every time they see a patient to visit all such conditions, and maybe based on the urgencies, they might want to use only some parts of the tool. Now it's possible for them to create the care plan in their own pace. It is possible to access different parts without the wizard-like interface. And we have also updated the patient list for them. It's now they can now we are still updating. They will be able to see their patients based on their scored assessment, based on their symptoms, based on their identified risk, even in the first page in a dashboard. This usability acceptance study was carried out pre-deployment. Right now, we will be starting the piloting, and during the piloting and after the pilot operation, we will also carry out usability studies. We will continue with our activities. I will be passing the floor to my colleague Nerea to continue.
As Luke was mentioning, my name is Nerea González, and I work at Chronic UNEC, which is a health services research institute settled down in the Basque Country in the north of Spain. So as Gokce was mentioning, I'm going to share with you the work we have done in adapting the questionnaires that we are going to employ in the intervention in ADLIFE. So to be able to explain it, let me just share with you, put this work in context. So to answer the general question that we described and Gokce was explaining at the beginning of the presentation, the main outcomes of the main outcomes to be collected had to be defined. So to do so, a working group of clinicians. Not only clinicians, sorry, healthcare professionals in general, patient advocates, and also researchers work together for several months to obtain this minimum set of outcomes that can be seen in this graphic in the slide. The domains defined were an adaptation of the ICHOM standard set for the ADLIFE target population, which are we employed or we consider as a reference the standard sets that the ICHOM organization has for heart failure and also older patients. So taking into account all this information, this group of people work together in the definition of these domains. The domains are those shown in the external part of the circle, and the areas, the main areas, are those included in the internal part of the cycle. So to be available, to have this data available for some domains and for some of these outcomes, we could only employ questionnaires to obtain to gather this data directly from the patients. So in the next slide, we describe how we decided to employ some PROMS, some patient-reported outcome measures, which are these tools to gather or which are completed by patients or by a proxy. So we needed these PROMS to collect some of these outcomes that were considered necessary for the project. But of course, not all these questionnaires were on the 7 languages that are included in ADLIFE project. So we needed to adapt them to all these languages. And why is it important to adapt the questionnaires to the different languages to be employed in a project, in any project? Because these adaptations enable us to achieve cultural diversity and to also, of course, to take part in international projects as ADLIFE'S, and because these adaptations will enable us to compare the results across countries also. So if we go back if we go to the next slide, please, Gokce, we can see the before mentioned graphic, and these are the questionnaires that we are going to use, and that patients and caregivers also are going to answer during the intervention. So to assess the activities of daily living, the questionnaires will be the Lawton scale, the Lawton-Brody scale, sorry, the Bartel index, the Kansas City congestive health failure questionnaire, and the CAT, which is specifically for COPD patients. Then to evaluate the mood and emotional health, the questionnaire is the Hamilton, the Hospital Anxiety and Depression Scale. For quality of life, it is the Euroqual 5D5L. Then for the baseline functional disability due to dyspnea, it is the MMRC, which is the Modified Medical Research Council Dyspnea Scale. Then a questionnaire will be used and will be answered by healthcare professionals, patients, and caregivers to measure the usability and satisfaction with the platforms, which is the UTAT, the Unified Theory of Acceptance and Use of Technology. And finally, to measure the caregiver burden, the SARIT burden interview. As I was saying before, of course, not all these questionnaires were available in the second languages of our project, so we needed to somehow get a consensus on how we would make this adaptation on a similar manner for all the pilot sites. So there are already some existing guidelines to address this translation approach and this linguistic validation. So what we did was to structure the phases and the steps to be followed in this cultural adaptation. And I have to say that that is important to consider here that the main aim of this cultural adaptation is not merely a linguistic validation or a linguistic adaptation, but also a cultural and adaptation and obtaining this consideration of the conceptual, the semantic, and the cultural equivalence between the source and the target languages. So I'm going just to go through to the main phases of these guidelines, of this process. And phase one, of course, here is not expressed, but of course we needed to get the permission of the original authors of the authors of the original version of the questionnaire, or the companies that might be in charge of the managing these questionnaires. So after getting these permissions, so the first phase would be the translation into the target language. So two independent bilingual translators whose mother tongue is the target language made independent translations of the instructions, the questions, and also the response scales. And then the research team is in charge of comparing these both translations and obtaining a consensus one, let's say, which would be the first translation into the target language. Then in the second phase, which is the back translation into the original language, two independent translators whose mother tongue is the source language are responsible for translating the version obtained in phase one back into the original language. So, and then once we have these two versions, again, the research team recreate a single back translated version. There might be some disagreements, so they discuss those disagreements and obtain the most equivalent version to the original as possible. Then in a third phase, what we do is, and this is key in this adaptation of the questionnaires of the different languages version of the questionnaires for the end users. And here, as Gokce was saying, our end users are mainly elderly people. I would say that it's this third phase. The first step here is the harmonization, which is to compare the different back translations with each other and the original questionnaire. And the second part here is the cognitive debriefing, which is shown in the next slide. The aim of the cognitive debriefing is to test these back translated questionnaires to be tested by individuals from the target population. This cognitive debriefing work is made up by a cognitive interview, where before we ask, or the end users are asked to fill in the questionnaire, and then we ask them to answer some questions regarding the instructions, for instance, if they were clear and easy to understand, the items, if they experience any difficulties in answering the questions, or what do they think that the question is asking, how would they rephrase the questions, are those questions important for them? And also we formulate some questions regarding the response options. If they find it difficult to understand them, how would they, or what do they think that those response options mean? So in this phase, those items or response scales that are identified as problematic are discussed in the research team, and the final version should be sent to the again to the authors of the original version for the agreement. And then in the last phase, as I was already mentioning, the information provided by these interviews with patients and experts, sometimes also, and caregivers also, because also in ADLIFE, caregivers will be very important for supporting the patients. These changes are taken into account and putting up together by the research team to obtain the last version of the questionnaires. So this is the process. I am just including here some references because, as I mentioned, there exists already some guidelines and recommendations regarding these cultural adaptations of questionnaires. So this is the work that we have done, trying to adapt and these tools that are going to be very important for ADLIFE, adapting them and being comprehensible by the end users and the target population for our project. So thank you.